You think Puff and I sound similar? Great, the imposter
Yo,
serum I took is working.
no way. I don't sound anything like you.
I don't sound anything like you.
Oh shit.
Well, as we're all getting filed in here, welcome everybody. I'm Dorse. We are joined today by the one and only Puffballs United for
That's
our
me.
second Discord Q&A. Are you all
Oh,
excited? Who's Puff? You're gonna find out.
I wonder if it's the one that's labeled Puffballs United.
Couldn't be. Couldn't be.
I don't think so.
And I'm your host, your friendly bean-shaped community manager, Dorse. But before we get started today, just got a few quick ground rules we're going to run through. As we mentioned during the last QA, just like this one, you all submitted a ton of questions. Thank you for submitting them, but we cannot get to all of them. So thank you for submitting them. Puffballs is a very busy person. I don't want to have him here for just like 3 hours, though I think that would be cool, but we can only get through so many questions today.
Maybe 1 hour
Second,
is too much time to spend with me.
I think you're good company for an hour. Secondly, we aren't allowed to spill all the beans. Sorry for the pun, but we do like to keep some secrets because that's fun. We want y'all to be excited about things for the future. And then we'll do our best to get through all the questions in this hour. And then if we do have time, we will open it up to questions from the chat, and maybe we'll do a lightning round like we did with Victoria as well, where we can just pull questions from the chat. So I would say just hold on to your questions until the end, and then we can get to those so that way we don't miss anybody. Alrighty, Puff, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's do this.
Oh,
Question
this.
number 1 is from Crewmate Lucker, and they ask, "How are you?"
Not too bad. Um, yeah, not too bad. Just cruising on through life, learning how to make a game with 22 people instead of two.
Yeah, puts a different perspective on things, right?
Yeah, it's a different experience nowadays. Not in a bad way, just completely
Right.
different than it used to be.
Well, then, Crewmate Toasty wants to follow that up with, I'm sure one of many you will see today. How did you come up with the idea of Henry Stickmin?
Um, I mean, it wasn't like a well thought out thing per se. It was mostly like I took a computer graphics class in high school and they taught you Flash and they taught you how to make buttons and they taught you how to make movies stop and go. And I was like, I feel like I could like do some sort of interactive thing with this. And stick figures are easy to draw, so it was a stick figure with a face. I pulled the name from like a different set of comics. Uh, and then it kind of just became a thing. Like I made one, people were like, "Oh, that's fun." And then I made another one and they're like, "I want another one." Like, okay.
Right, just
And I
keep
came
going
up with
from there.
another one. Yeah.
And that's cool that it was also kind of like spawned out of you taking that class too, because
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Like when it's like just has that moment of like, hey, you want to do something cool?
Yeah, it kind of taught me that like you don't have to be in like a big company to make something. Like you can do things on your own. And like I didn't even see those as games per se. It was more just like an interactive movie, but it was like a step in the direction of creating games.
Ooh, yeah, and that's a great way to think about it too.
Hmm.
Like 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 jumping from like that perspective of like, oh yeah, no, I was thinking about this more like movie.
Yeah, it was hard, actually kind of hard to classify on Newgrounds because it like wasn't a movie, but it wasn't a game either. And like people complain from both sides of which category got put in.
It's like you can't please them all, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's follow this one up. We have crewmate Zpug King who asks, "How did you come up with the settings and stories for the Henry game? Did you have it all planned out from the beginning, or did everything come to you as you made the game?
The overall like game arcs were not planned out. Like each one just started being planned after the last one. So like after breaking the bank, I remember one of my friends commented in a review like, "Oh, better luck getting out of prison, huh?" And I was like, "Hmm." So that was how that one started, and then like I wanted to do one that was more on the offensive. So I was like, okay, well, he's gonna steal something because he's a criminal. Without stealing the diamond, and then I want to go back to like, or no, then it was like I don't know where the airship came from per se. The
Mhm.
top hat clan I think I've talked about before came from like I used to draw like stick figure comics, and to differentiate the bad guys from the good guys, I put top hats on them, and that kind of just carried over into the future.
It's like note to self: top hat could be villain.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay. Ooh, and crewmate Drycan 63. Shifting gears here over to Among Us. Did you expect the game Among Us to get as big as it did from when it started?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it got big enough to be honest. Like, I think more people should have played it. I think we just got snubbed. No, honestly, I don't think anyone could have expected that. There's no way you can. Like, even like before it blew up, that was about as good as we were happy. Like people played it. It was fun watching streamers play it, even if they were in countries where we couldn't understand the language. And then yeah, now it's a whole thing that is kind of impossible to fathom how many people have played it.
Right, and it's always like one of those things that like I've learned from like any creative pursuit, right? Where people tell you to like, well, could you picture this many people in a room? And so when people ask you like this question about like Among Us or even Henry Stickmin, it's just like, no.
Yeah,
Like that's a lot of people
yeah.
who have consumed this. And crewmate Green Hills, they must be a Sonic fan. I'm just
Gotta be.
assuming. They ask, does Henry have any awareness about the failing paths? Also, does he have hair?
Well, I don't think he has hair because you'd probably be able to see it, considering other characters have hair. Um, I would say I don't think he does have any awareness, any meta awareness. The way I imagine it is like every instance is its own like parallel timeline. So if you like go back, that's like a different branch in that parallel timeline.
Ooh, like the real multiverse of madness right here
Pretty
with
much, yeah.
with Henry. And oh, man, that would be honestly kind of scary if you were like aware of every time you failed. The
Exactly, yeah.
some kind of weird paradox thing happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to move forward at all because I'll fail. So
Right.
I'm not going to do anything.
It's like, or at some point you just like you have like the ultimate run, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I've just failed like all these times, so now I know.
That's true. I think there's a Nicolas Cage movie about that. Did you ever see it called Next?
Yes, yes, I have.
Pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's like, yo, maybe we could get Nick Cage. That'd be wild.
Yeah. I think he just did a crossover with Dead by Daylight.
Yes, yes, he did.
So it's possible.
Yeah, right. All we have to do is like trust us on this, Nick. It's gonna be great. Crewmate gs.exe asks, who came up with the idea for calling your collective company Innersloth, and what was the inspiration for the name?
Uh, it was invented by a name generator.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, because I don't know, we were like, it was right at the beginning, and we were thinking about like, well, should we just keep going under Puffballs United because like I kind of built a brand around that, or should we make it like a separate thing? And then we decided to make it a separate thing because like I wanted to still have like my own identity and not get like weird absorbed stuff there.
Right.
And we didn't have any names off the top of our heads, so we were just like use the name generator, clicked like I don't know 5 times,
Oh,
and
nice.
Innersloth just kind of like sat with me because I feel like I've always had this thing of like being really inspired to do stuff, but then fighting with like the I don't know if it's health or energy issues in the first place of like I'm too tired. It's just like I just liked that.
Right. Oh, and that's good. Like within 5 clicks, because like when I have to think of a name for anything, I will be sitting for days or
Oh
weeks,
yeah,
right?
character creators are a nightmare.
But it's like it's cool that like, but when you find that one that you click on it, you're like, yeah,
Hmm.
that's it. And especially if it resonates like this, that's a cool. And I'm glad we got to hear how we got the company name.
Yeah, I think I've told that story once, but I don't remember where, and it might have been early enough that no one remembers.
Like you're in on some primo secrets now, Chad. Let's see here. Epic Karen Sangad. I hope I pronounced your name right. They ask, will Charles Calvin like hamburger?
Yeah, probably. I don't see why not.
Yeah, it's kind of like most people like hamburger, right? Why wouldn't Charles?
Yeah, exactly. He's a pretty regular guy. There's no reason for him not to like hamburgers.
Right? Unless there was a top hat on it, right?
Yeah, then he would destroy it.
That'd be like honestly, like I'd have to like take a picture of that first and then I'd destroy it, you know?
Yeah, I bet you could make a top hat out of like pickles or something.
Ooh, yeah. Fan art incoming. Crewmate Raz asks, how much did you draw in Among Us that we as players see while playing the game? And what was your favorite thing or things to work on that game?
Um, yeah, I'll just break it down. I drew the crewmates that run around. A lot of the original skins that I think are free on mobile now. I did those. I did the art for Skeld, the art for Polis, the art for Airship, the kill animations, a bunch of the hats in the beginning. What else am I forgetting? I feel like that's the majority of it. Oh, the
Yeah.
drop ship.
Yes. Yep. So a good chunk.
Yeah, mostly none of the like. I didn't do any of the menus or the UI elements. Um, like the meeting screen, the emergency button noise, graphics, that kind of stuff. And Miro was done by Amy.
Nice. Do you have one that stands out as being your favorite?
Oh, that's right. Honestly, I think like probably Polis because it was like early enough where there wasn't too much pressure. I was working on it on Saturdays, I think, and I would just like stream to 3 viewers the progress, which was pretty fun.
Nice. And like, oh man, like when you're streaming it too at the same time, it's like,
Yeah, those are all gone now too.
oh man.
Dead, gone forever. I didn't know. I thought at the time I thought Twitch would save them forever,
Oh
but then I
right.
learned,
Yeah, this is
yeah,
like it's not like quite forever. They'll do like longer, but they're like, hope you saved it. You're like, what?
yeah.
Let's see here. Earcluse32 asks, what was the inspiration for the endless walkthrough part in completing the mission?
So I don't know if you've ever gone and tried to look up a tutorial on how to use a program or like even a video game tutorial probably, but there's this like cliche where they'll spend like 5 minutes talking in the beginning before like you have to skip all the way to the end to get to what you actually want to find. So it's just taking that and putting it to the extreme and making it kind of the other inspiration of course was splash attack, the old Flash animation that like never ended, but it was always in a random order, so you didn't know that it was looping forever.
Oh man, those are great. We're like, it's gonna
Hmm.
change, right? Like, no, we've been here for hours.
Yeah, and it's like just random enough that you think it's not looping. So
Right.
that's why I threw a timer in there, just that like constantly goes up. So you think like, well, it's not looping because this timer is different. Like this one didn't
Ooh,
go back down
that's a,
to
that's a good trick.
mhm.
It's like that reminds me also. I think it was in Metal Gear Solid or not or Metal Gear Solid 3, I think, did something similar where like if you climb the ladder while the song is playing, you get an infinitely long ladder that Snake climbs until the song is
Oh,
over.
that's right. Yeah.
So it's like one of those where you're like, no, 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 no. We can make this go on.
Yeah. That's such a funny choice, dude.
And let's see here. Ooh, crewmate New Spacia asks, do you have any plans for Dig to China?
No, I don't think so. That was kind of our like first run at making a game together, me and Forte. Um, and like it was fine, but I kind of want to do more deeper games, no pun intended there. Um, and I think that one was just like too simple, too shallow for what, at least for what I want to do.
Yeah, actually thinking like deeper mechanics and stuff now at this point.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's like, and it was a good starting point though. Like that's always, I think, and it's cool that it's so beloved too. Like the amount of people that I see like ask about it, you're like, oh, all right,
Yeah, that's surprising to me. But it is cool, and like I always I like to kind of build up our Innersloth cinematic universe. So maybe there will be cameos in future games. Like we have some cosmetics in Among Us based on Dig to China.
Oh, and I like the sound of this. Out of the way, Kevin Feige. We got this. So next up, Z Cat asks, in the art team, who decided that the Among Us characters were going to be bean people? We
I
might have
don't know
touched
where
on this
the
already.
like terminology being came from per se. Probably Victoria or maybe the community. But yeah, the design was me. Um, there were three initial concepts. One was a star shape, one was a little circle, and then the third one was kind of what you see now, but without the backpack. And then there was a fourth one where I put the backpack on. And
Ooh,
we were like, yeah, this one.
oh man, like I'm so used to seeing the backpack now. I'm like trying to picture what it would just be like without the backpack. It's like where do
It
they
just
hide,
looks empty.
right? Like where do they hide all the snacks and the pizza? You know,
Exactly.
it's got to go somewhere,
Where did they hide all their murder weapons?
right? Yeah, exactly. It's like just nothing. It's like be like no. So let's see here. Crewmate the Nose asks, "Will there be Among Us too?"
You're playing it. There won't be Among Us 2 because we took all of the things we planned for Among Us 2 and put them into Among Us 1. I mean, it's not complete, of course, but that was the whole decision was instead of like making a sequel, we were just going to update the game that everyone was playing. And that's like roles was like the biggest thing we were going to do for Among Us 2 anyway. So like
Nice.
we're just going to put those into the first one.
Yeah, and it's worked out well. Like we got all this cool stuff, and you don't have to say two at the end,
It's true.
right?
Among Us 2 will be completely different. It'll be like a card game. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I
Yeah,
was just
yeah,
making a joke.
yeah. It's like don't go running to the internet now, okay?
Yeah. It's okay. Reddit's down. We'll be fine.
Right? For now, for now. Doral had asks, "Do you have any plans for a new game that isn't a sequel?" I guess technically isn't not a sequel, but isn't a sequel, I think is what they were going with.
Gotcha. Um, yes.
And there we go. Remember, can't spill the beans. Can't spill the beans.
It's in progress. I could say that.
Sweet. Sam like slowly was like, is he gonna say something? Is Victoria gonna like yank us off the Discord?
Yeah, I got stabbed.
You're like, oh no.
I could say anything.
Uh, AI Tech asks, what graphics editors do you use for your games?
Um, I am a chump and only use Flash because it's the program that I know how to use. And I for a while, I think when we after I finished Polis, I was like, should I start trying to draw in Photoshop? But I just get so frustrated that I can't do things fast enough that I'm just like, nah, I'll just stick to Flash. Because I know it and I've been using it for like 15 years.
Oh yeah, and that's got to be like a hard switch.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know like so many of the little annoying intricacies with Flash in the first place. It's been kind of funny teaching the newer artists about Flash and like, oh, this thing happened. Like, oh, that's just the memory leak. If you leave the program open for 2 hours, you have to close it again or it'll run out of memory.
You're basically like, Han Solo teaching someone how to fly the Millennium Falcon,
Yeah, exactly.
It's like if you cross those wires and rip out the compressor, it works.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, got it. And because I feel your pain too, because I remember when I was doing some of my own artwork and some of my artist friends were like, why don't you just like bite the bullet and switch programs? I'm like, the pain of learning.
Yeah.
Like it hurts. It hurts a little on the inside.
Yeah, maybe one day, but it's kind of become like a style now at this point, that helps you stand out. Because
Right.
like a lot of indie games do like pixel art, and like I've always kind of seen my art style as a limitation in a way. Like, oh, I only know how to use Flash and stuff, but like I guess there aren't that many Flash looking games out there that it kind of helps you stand out.
And that it stand out, it does it very well. Let's see here. Ooh, crewmate Ellie the Eevee asks, why was there a JoJo reference in Revenge?
Because JoJo's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I like doing references. JoJo is like one of my favorite anime series, and I think part 5 was like in progress when I was working on that scene, so I just had like a lot of exposure to it in that moment anyway. But I wanted to just do like a full blown parody of it because I think I had watched like all of them like a couple years leading up to the part 5 coming out.
Nice. And now I have to follow this up because of that. Do you have a favorite JoJo character?
Ooh, yeah, I mean it's got to be Joseph.
Okay. Okay.
Part 2 Joseph and part 3 Joseph are both good.
Nice. See, now I'm just like every time I'm gonna like see you now, I'm just gonna like try not to like do a JoJo pose or something.
I mean, I'd be impressed.
Yeah, actually, that we need to limber up, like do some good poses.
I mean, the reason there's a Dragon Ball reference too is because I watched all of Dragon Ball Kai within like 2 or 3 months.
Whew.
And so I was like, well, this would make a lot of sense now that I've been hyper exposed to it.
Right.
I can kind of deconstruct how these fight scenes go.
Right. Oh man, like that would be like for anything, right? We're just like, what was your hyperfixation for this moment? You're like, well, I got really obsessed with this one anime. Don't worry.
I didn't have it in me to do classic Dragon Ball Z. I had to at least do the one that cuts out most of the fillers so I could experience the story.
That is 100% valid. I do not miss those times watching Toonami.
Yeah.
That was a lot to sit through. Crewmate It's Jordan asks, what do you think about Henry Stickmin as a whole? And are there any plans for any Stickmin content in the future?
I'm very proud of the Henry Stickmin collection as a whole. Like, I think I gave it the last game like the last, not even the last hurrah, but like I gave it a really good finale in terms of quality and in terms of content. But it's kind of a mixed bag too because I really like burnt myself out working on that game almost to a point where like I'm traumatized by that genre.
Oh
So
boy.
like I don't want to make that kind of game anymore ever. But that doesn't mean I don't want any Henry games at all. Like I'm interested in exploring the story somehow in some way. But I don't have any like real steps there. That's just like something I've been pondering.
Yeah. And like hearing that it's just like, when you like push yourself almost to basically like to almost burnout. It's like
Yeah.
that's
Oh
like
yeah, it
a
was.
bittersweet, where it's like, yeah, I love this thing, but I'm tired.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was like 3 years of development, and I kept this log because I was able to work out a formula where I could track how much percentage through the game I was. And it was
Ooh.
like I'd been working on it for a year, I think, and it was at like 22%. And I'm like, oh my
Oh
God,
my goodness.
I have a huge mountain to go. And like that was
Oh.
honestly, I think, the hardest point. And then once I got to about 40, actually, and then I think once I got to 40, I was able to get to 50 pretty easily. And then I was like,
Hmm.
I'm halfway. It's all downhill now. Not really downhill, but like,
Right. But like you
yeah.
you made it to that summit, right? And you're
Hmm.
like, all right, we can make it through the rest. Oh, see, like that's also like maybe like a little tip also for any of you that like want to make your own game someday, right? Or
Yeah,
just
exactly.
like those steps like can be kind of difficult sometimes, but you'll hit that point too. Hopefully, where you're like, yeah, we got the rest of this.
Yeah. Yeah, that is part of it too, is that I refuse to let anyone else help me with like any of the art or design.
Mm, yeah.
Um, yeah.
Well, and that's like learning experience too. Also useful for anybody else that wants to do actually almost any really creative endeavor or even like non-creative for work too. Like it's like sometimes you do want to do it yourself, and then sometimes you want help.
Mhm. And it's okay.
Crewmate, my username. I like that one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Why aren't there custom colored visors?
We thought about it early on, and this is all my fault. I think they're ugly. That's it. I think that it tends to make for really ugly combos, especially if you get let like especially if you let players choose. And so I think it was better off making visor cosmetics instead. I think that's more fun and leads to more fun combos.
Mhm.
And honestly, like there could be like a visor cosmetic that is a color. I don't think it'll happen, but we
Right.
can we can kind of do both if we wanted to. Because that's the other thing. If you can change the color of your visor now, that would just be an extra layer of clashing with visor cosmetics that we'd have to think about.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is we all need to get better at our drip before we could be trusted with colored visors.
Yes.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So you heard it here first, chat. Let's see here. Rye Christie asks, "Will there be new events in the game that contain new music?"
Ooh, interesting. Um, I've been wanting to write music for Among Us. Um, so maybe I don't know if I would consider them new events per se, but like I want to write more music for the game. I've been thinking about like even if it might not even be in the game, maybe it's just an album that's not with the game, but like I've been thinking about themes for musical themes for each of the maps. I think that could be fun.
Oh, that would be. I will put my vote in that if there is one somewhere.
All right, that's good to know.
Yeah, even though that might be more work for you, like as a
That's
as a
true.
person that isn't just on the team, but like I have had like the hide and seek theme stuck in my head so many times, and
Not
then
bad.
like no, it's a good thing. I like it because I'll just like be humming it or whatever. But then I also get really excited when I see that anybody has done a cover of it,
Yeah, me
because I
too.
always try to like, I'm like, oh, Puff will want to see this.
Yeah.
like because it's always fun to get like, oh yeah, I did a metal cover of the hide and seek. You're like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that like I hadn't experienced at all until probably Among Us. Like I can't remember. No. The Henry Stickmin Collection had someone that was doing a lot of covers, and that was really cool. Vampire Piano, I think was their name.
Ooh,
And then
nice.
yeah, with Among Us, even though it barely has any music, you get like the meme song that people
Yep.
like. But even like I heard there was a metal cover of the menu song, which is like nothing. There's no music almost.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I'm gonna have to look
Guys,
that
if I
up
can
after this.
dig that up for you, yeah,
Let's see here. Bob,
the real
the
one.
real Bob, asks, how did you make the voice effect for
Mm.
Right Hand Man Reborn?
I used a filter from Infected Mushroom that they use for their. I mean, not from them. I didn't like go to their house, but they sell a filter that they use and have developed for their songs. And if you're not familiar with Infected Mushroom, they have a lot of like interesting, like warpy sounds for their vocals. Um, and
Nice.
so I just went through the presets until I found one. It took a few tries actually. And then I made sure to save that preset so that I could, because I would record the sounds, the voices normally, and then I'd have to run them through a filter in FL Studio and
Oh,
re-export them.
okay.
But I made sure to keep the raw voices and the filtered one
Say that
just in
like,
case.
yeah, I was gonna say that just in case, like I would have like not saved that filter and then like had to recreate it.
Yeah, I think even like early on, either that happened or I was like not happy with it, and I went back and I think I had to rerun like 8 lines.
Oh boy.
However many lines there are in the Top Hat King Path. Because I wasn't happy with the way it sounded. I wonder if I still have those somewhere. Probably overwrote them.
So this one I have like a segue question for this that wasn't asked. This is purely me. um, do you have a favorite sound effect you've made?
Uh yeah, I'm getting more into that for Among Us. Like I'm creating more sounds from scratch. And so like well, not fully from scratch. I'll still use samples, but like the I was a big fan of making the roll reveal sounds.
Ooh,
Because
yeah.
those are fun and there's like some layering stuff in there. I think those are, yeah, the main thing. I tried to copy some of the, or not copy, but imitate some of the like SNES and NES sounds when I was making sounds for Henry, and that was fun to like learn how arpeggios can make
Right.
something sound a certain way, or trills and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that
100%.
taught me a little bit about sound design in the early days.
Oh, and that's brilliant. And I'm kind of sad we didn't have the soundboard now because I had like the Game Boy Advance, like,
Oh,
startup, like tickles the
yeah.
brain just right, right?
Ooh. Hmm.
You're just like, oh yeah, that's like pure nostalgia in sound form.
Yeah.
And let's see here. Forgive ask, I remember how you played this game with others. So the question is, how well do you play at the moment? And what advice would you give us so that we can play this wonderful game
Mm.
better and better? I'm assuming this is for Among Us.
Yeah, I would assume so too. I'm coming back around. Honestly, I got super burnt out on playing the game for like a year, like the past year or so. But I'm coming back around to like being able to enjoy it again. Especially with like features we're working on, makes it more fun again. Um, it's hard for me to judge myself because I don't think I'm that great, but I feel like others might say that I'm decent. It It depends, I think. Definitely one of the playtests we did recently, I just was like, I'm too tired to lie. You got me.
Yeah, I was gonna
But
say, I
then,
think I remember it swung like both ways, where it was like, yeah, you totally pulled one off, and then the next one, it was like, it was me.
yeah, yeah, me and Victoria had a really good imposter game. Um, where the trick I think is to be really cognizant of what you say, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, and like be think about like the information that you're revealing and also think about the information you're trying to get out of people, especially if you're the imposter. It's a lot about like if someone says they were in an area, you know, like, okay, well, I can't say I was there because they would be able to prove that I wasn't.
Right? It's almost like in a weird way, it's like you need to learn to lie better.
Yeah, just be good at lying, be a sociopath, get rid of your empathy.
Right. But only while playing Among Us.
Yeah, I mean, you can practice in the real world if you want to get really good, but no, no.
We do not recommend that. Do not recommend that. But yeah, no, that's like spot on because I think, and I guess it also depends. Like if you're like, because now that we have classic versus hide and seek,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Like
true.
hide and seek is just like maybe you could do an aim trainer, like
Yeah.
if you want to get good at like clicking anywhere on the screen. But like thankfully you don't have to worry about like defending yourself really then. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's like learning how to be convincing goes
Yeah.
a long way because it means people will believe you when you actually are a crewmate or
Depends on the
or
lobby
not.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could like there's definitely people who just have that charisma where they can go into every meeting and just like run the meeting. And if they're the imposter, you're all bones.
Yeah. Yeah. Been there. Been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like one of the first times I ever played and got killed on my live stream. And I was like, y'all believed them? I was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's so saddening too.
It's like, I thought we were friends. A crewmate Wolfstrex asks, what game would you like to create next? For example, maybe you'd like to make a platformer someday. I think we kind of hinted at this earlier, but I will let you say what you can and want to say.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really speak to the game that I want to make next, just because it's secret, but like I have tons of game ideas kind of just rattling around. So like it kind of goes all over the place. I think generally I'm interested in multiplayer and it like I think kind of the um philosophy I'm starting to develop is like I like games that can be played both single player and multiplayer. Like Among Us kind of suffers from that, and that might be why I've been driven more to support a way to play by yourself, but also a way to play with your friends. And like that could go from you maybe there's a story game, but you still allow them to play it with a friend, or there it's a usually or it's a multiplayer game, but you can play by yourself if you want to.
Right.
So that's kind of like a philosophy that I'm trying to keep in mind when working on new game ideas. Not that this necessarily answers the question.
Right. Well, can't spill all the beans, so
Right.
don't feel
I
bad.
mean, like asking about a platformer specifically, like I think a 3D platformer would be really fun to make, but I don't think anyone on our team has that. Like we're not 3D, we don't make 3D
Right.
games. So I just don't think it'll ever happen. I mean, who knows what the future holds, but they're also, I think, notoriously hard to get right.
Right. And like it's actually funny because that reminds me of like everybody's like, oh, when are we getting a new Mario? I'm like, it probably took them a long time to build just the one.
It's true. When's Mario's Tears of the Castle coming out?
Right? Just like, sorry,
Open world
Mario,
Mario.
your princess is in another 3D realm.
Yeah.
The Erkin Luxray asks, of all the memes and goofs, all the memes and goofs we've seen on Twitter, which is memorable for you? Do you have a favorite?
I mean, I like all the shit posts that I've made with like um the Dr. Livesey Muscle Among Us guy walking to the beat of the song. I like that one.
That's a good one.
I made one. This isn't even related to any of our games, but I made one that was um the song "Don't Worry, Be Happy," but you put the DK rap in there for Lanky. They just fit really well together.
Oh my goodness.
I feel like that one should have done better, but it's okay. I blame Elon. He nerfed
Man,
me.
see now I need to go see that because like I always laugh about Lanky Kong now, even
Yeah.
to this day. You're just like, oh man, they did him dirty in that rap.
It's my pin tweet. Everyone go to my Twitter and look at my pin tweet and like it and retweet it.
Oh, there you go. There's your mission, your new task. And Tango asks, did Among Us's success sort of or overshadowing that of Henry Stickmin Collection lead to any complicated feelings?
No, not really. It's just like a whirlwind of stuff because like that was it's like 3 years of development. It releases and you're like, it's out, it's done. Like Lord of the Rings style. Frodo looking into the volcano. And then like 2 weeks later, Among Us starts blowing up. And like honestly, I think Henry Stickmin did great. Like I don't feel like it got underlooked or overlooked. I think it did exactly honestly, I think it did better than I expected. And like seeing the fans come out of that game has been wild considering I feel like the fandom I experienced before that with like fleeing the complex it's still like there, but with Twitter growing, I think, and me being more active on there, I just see like a lot more of it, which is just really cool. And I think a lot of people didn't know about it until collection came out in the first place.
Oh, and that's interesting, and it's good to hear that. Like, because I still can't imagine what it's like to be like in your position where it's like, yeah, you've had like the series, and then, like you said, you had like basically 2 weeks
Yeah.
before suddenly it explodes, and everybody like sees your next game, right? And it's just like you're just like you didn't have time, didn't have time
Yeah.
to have those feelings.
Yeah. I'm glad that I was able to finish it before the explosion because like the amount of time that went into like dealing with everything else and this like stress that was involved there would have just slowed everything down again. But on the flip side, it would have been interesting to see with those new eyes how many more people might have discovered it. Who knows?
And let's see here. Crewmate Ziku asks, is there a lore or background story for Among Us like the stuff with Impostors and MIRA? If the team won't let you tell everything, just as much as you can over lore or even hats and pets. So this is like a
If that's
for you.
yeah, it's a tough one to like answer. I think officially we don't have too much. Like I always like to keep it very open to interpretation. I do have like my own kind of head canons and stuff. Um, like I feel like every map and every instance is definitely like its own instance, its own what would you call it? Almost like a parallel timeline too.
Right.
Like they're not gonna connect to each other in any way. It's a new group. It's a new possibility.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yeah.
but like the first three maps kind of were meant to connect in a way to a story, like with Polis being like the beginning, and then you got Skeld, and then they end up at Mira. So that's like kind of a
Gotcha.
trajectory of possible story, but it wouldn't be like a continuous thing. It'd be like,
Right.
oh, in this one, the imposter kills everyone on Polis, but in this one, it sneaks in all the way to Mira and then kills
Right.
everyone. That kind of a thing.
Right. Where it could have like little tiny little like hints of things where it's like, oh, was that an asset also on this map? Like, well, how did it get
Hmm.
here? Oh, it must have traveled through this other one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that's a
and
great way to think about it.
yeah, an airship was just more of a crossover, so I've never really considered that. Like, I think my my headcanon for that one was that Henry pushed a button that turned the dimension into Among Us dimension.
Having your own like flashpoint moment, but with Henry Stickmin
Yeah.
and Among Us. They're like, wait a second. It's like, and honestly, I think you tackle that in a great way, and I think the team does too. For considering, it's like, well, like as many games as out there that like have like what seems like an endless amount of lore. Uh, it's also kind of nice to just like let players like make their own in a way,
Yeah.
where you could have like like each lobby you play in can be your own story, right? Or
Yeah,
it's just like
exactly.
where it's just like, oh yeah, today the we watched like an imposter in the cafeteria wake up and put a cat on his head and he chased everybody through the skull, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and even like with imposter origins and stuff, it's like people think they want. I mean, I don't want to sound like that Blizzard quote, but like
Yeah.
people think they want to know everything, but like that takes away so much. It'd be like if you
Hmm.
watched Halloween and then like the beginning of the movie, you get to watch Michael Myers grow up and you get to see him and like
Right.
learn everything about him, and then like he's not scary anymore because he's just like you know everything about him.
Right. No, and I feel you with that too, where it's like there has to be still room for the imagination to work.
Yeah,
So there you go, y'all. Technically, each of you has probably made your own version of Among Us in your head right now.
yeah.
You're doing it as we speak. Oh, and that was like the last of my official questions. Are you good with taking 10 minutes to pull questions from the chat?
Yeah. Excuse me.
Sweet. Okay, now is the time, y'all. Be as civil as you can, please. Our
I'm
mods
just
are working
saying.
hard, but feel free to post your questions. We'll pull some from the chat. Let's see here. What does an Among Us character look like under their suit?
Just another suit. I think that's like half canon, but like I don't know. It's one of those things too. Like I don't want to think about all those details. So maybe their suit is skin. Maybe they have a suit under their suit. Who knows?
Right,
The
right.
only
It's like a
thing we know is
hazmat wearing a hazmat suit.
yeah, they have one bone.
Yeah, that's all we needed to know, right?
Yeah.
Does right hand man like dark or white chocolate?
Is this before he becomes half cyborg? I feel like after becoming a cyborg, he's not going to care because he doesn't have
No,
as
no
good of a
taste
sense
buds,
of
right?
taste.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like he would lean dark chocolate.
And Drudis, for which game are you referring? I'm going to assume Among Us. For what is your favorite part about the game?
Um, I mean, basically just the interactions that come out between the players, unless it's like a question about favorite part of developing the game.
Right.
Because that would be making fun things.
Right. That's always part of it, right? Being able to share and make new fun things.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, my favorite part is seeing people experience the thing that's been made. Because you end up like not sitting on it for so long, but you're like developing it and looking at it, and then like finally other people get to see it.
Yeah, 100%. And I will say, like from the community side, I I feel like a person that's like told to like sit on their hands because I
Mhm.
want to share all the amazing things that the team creates.
Yeah.
And it's like no. I'm like every time I'm like, oh, just you'll wait. It's gonna be amazing. Oh, where did the name Puffballs United come from?
So after I drew stick figure comics in middle school, I started drawing these comics about a puffball named Melvin. I've actually streamed me reading every single comic that I made. Uh, I still need to put that on YouTube, but I wanted to come up with a name for that cart or that comic, I guess. So I ended up calling it Puffballs United. And honestly, I think it was like there's like an event in Melee called Puffballs Unite, and I think that was just like in residual memory. And I just pulled that out, and I thought I came up with the whole thing myself. And then I played Melee again, and I was like, "Oh, this looks familiar."
Yeah, it's one of those where you're just like, I knew it at some point, right? Is that how that works?
Hmm.
Oh, I almost scrolled past it, but uh, milk before cereal or after?
Um,
Like when you pour in a bowl.
right. My alternative milk product that I would put it in after the cereal.
I'm glad you answered that correctly.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Not that there should be a wrong answer, but that is one you can get wrong.
Yeah, I'm not gonna judge you if you do it the other way, but also never speak to me. I'm just kidding.
Let's see here. No. Oh, lost my place. Can crewmates physically talk to each other? I feel like this one also, like, not to like answer for you, fits into a little bit what we talked about lore too. But
Yeah.
I'll let you answer.
I mean, the way I've been seeing it, or like when you're playing Among Us, you are the crewmate. When you speak, the crewmate is speaking. So technically, yes, like that's how I've imagined it.
Right. And like, and to me too, it's just like, oh yeah, like for all we know, like unless you're like my crewmate that has like the headset on the outside, like I imagine there's like maybe a headset on the inside, or
Yeah.
just like it's just hidden by the visor, you just can't see it.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't believe we got this one for Henry, but we did answer it for Among Us. What was your favorite thing to animate or plan in Henry Stickmin Collection?
Hmm. Yeah. Ah. I mean, the JoJo parody is up there. Even I would probably say the that scene in the Revenge, where you basically have a Matrix fight against Right Hand Man. Because I haven't animated very many action scenes, and so it was fun to like do that and mess around with camera angles and like um fight scenes and camera motion and stuff. And I think it turned out pretty good.
Nice. And like, there's also something like I feel like I've said this about a lot of things. People are gonna think I don't have like a terrible opinion, right? Where it's like, where it's like, yeah, when you get that good action scene, and you're just like, it just something feels really good when you get to see that finished, right? When you
Yeah.
like think about it or have it laid out, and you're like, then you actually see it, you're like, oh, yeah, that looks really good.
Hmm. Very satisfying.
Oh, Mike, I'm glad you agree there is a wrong answer for the milk question. Like, it is 100%. Let's see here. Oh, here's a good one. What are the musical instruments you play?
um, Technically zero. I used to play clarinet in middle school. I don't think I remember how to do that anymore. I can play things on the piano, but I wouldn't consider myself a piano player. I don't remember. I can read sheet music, but it's really like look up, look down. Like it's like a kindergartner reading English. Um, so I tend to just memorize stuff,
Oh,
but I can like play with two hands. I learned how to play Peaches.
nice. And like, I will say, like, that's, I feel like a step higher than a lot of people. So you should still be
That's
proud of
fair.
that
Yeah, that's
because
fair.
Like I can barely play like a recorder. Like if I was asked to, it would be very terrible.
I mean, that's kind of a terrible instrument in the first place.
Yeah.
So you're kind of doing the world a service by not knowing how to play a recorder.
Okay, that's valid. That's valid. And I got one for you. Do you like that anytime that we um, see folks in the community, or even like myself with the music, reference the music again, reference you with the composer on the beach with the flaming
Oh
piano?
yeah. I
Are you
just saw
sick of
that
that one
the other
yet?
day. No, that's funny. It's
Okay.
weird because I don't think of myself like that kind of a person like sitting on the piano with like genius things. Like when I come up with music, I it's like entering a dark room and you feel around like, what is this thing? Maybe this is something, and then you realize, oh no, this is a trash can. Like I don't want that in the song.
And then, oh, I feel like this one got asked to Victoria, and I feel like I should ask you too, just because just we'll have a running theme. If you had to pick any one pixel in Among Us that was your favorite, what do you think it would be?
It would be the pixel directly under the smiling visor cosmetic. That looks it looks just like the color of the visor, but it's actually a teardrop.
It's the smallest little tear.
Good luck finding it.
It's like I'm hoping somebody does. I'm hoping somebody looks. But I think that is all the time we have, everybody. We're gonna let Puff get some a couple minutes back. We want to say thank you so much for joining us for another Q&A session. Uh, Puff, I hope you had a great time.
Yeah, yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, and all of you in the chat, once again, thank you so much for submitting your questions, and we'll be doing this again very soon. Mods, helpers, thank you so much for being here and helping us facilitate the stream, and we will catch you again very, very soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.